Krishna Kumar Badhwar AVSM VrC. Sir, you are one of the wartime squadron commanders that I first thought of interviewing. When I came here in January, I was looking for you. Unfortunately, you were in Australia, but I met Group Captain Talwar, but I was disappointed that he had a food pipe in his mouth and obviously he couldn't say much, but his expressions were so distinct that I could literally read what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
And he was over enthusiastic about this interview. The day before, he had told his son, inquiring about how we were coming, whether we were going to stay for lunch, and if everything was ready. But today I'm happy that I have met you, sir. I want to begin with by saying that, mentioning about our old association. As I mentioned when we met, I remember you because you were one of the flamboyant, impressively handsome, young AOCs Agra had. I think before you, there was only Air Commodore Tinky Brar. Sadly, he passed away recently, but I can't figure out anybody else holding that command of a big sprawling station like Agra, which had half a dozen flying units, an SU, missile squadrons, you name it. Everything was there, including trouble for this AOC.
The mini command.
And subsequently, sir, I have been coming to meet you. I don't know, I was very taken up by your personality, by your friendship, by everything that you did, and there was no question of any rank difference with an AOC and a young navigator. And we've been coming to visit you. We've exchanged cards on few occasions, but in the last so many years, I think we've missed one another, and I'm happy that this reunion has taken place.
Thank you.
So I want to start by asking you firstly about, you're famous for your command of 35 Squadron during 71 war. There have been some controversies, as I mentioned, they have been buried now. As you also mentioned that Air Chief Lal has written at least a dozen pages, 5 or 6 pages on this very incident, and I read it somewhere else. But nothing like hearing it from the squadron commanders, hearing from yourself, sir. And also your role, obviously as the CEO, if you would like to mention any particular sorties, any particular names, I think this is the time before this account is buried.
From the horse's mouth.
From the horse's mouth, sir.
Well, to begin with, talking of this Karachi episode, sometime in October 71, CNC, then AVM Parker, called me to command headquarters at Allahabad and gave me a list of 19 targets in South Pakistan. And they were serially numbered and kept in my top secret locker. And I mentioned to him, I said, even if normal communication channels fail, you use ordinary phone and tell me which serial number. This is my task. So there is no secret, no compromisation of information. The Karachi oil was not in the list, which I discovered on the first day when I was attacking Masroor, which is at Karachi military airfield. On my escape route, I discovered this by chance. There were sprawling storage tanks, uncamouflaged, and no air defense. Though I came back and in my mission debrief mentioned this, I said this is a very lucrative target because no one can fight without oil.
Right.
So this must be included in the target list and given to me. It was conveyed by the AOC himself, Air Marshal, SU Marshal Dilbagh Singh, but it was refused. for no reason. Barker said no. So the AOC told me, he says he is not approving it. I said, please tell him that when we attack an airfield, and if we can identify BPI, it's an attractive target element. So why are we leaving BPI of the country? I even mentioned, I said, Hitler had to attack Baku because his Panzer divisions were without oil. He wanted to capture Baku oil to keep his armor going. And here we have a source which, by denying, you can shorten the duration of war.
Right.
So he repeated it next day. It was, in fact, 3 requests were made, and every time Barker would say no. And 3rd time he said, you tell him this is not his private war, attack what he is being told to attack. I was feeling frustrated, and I was not convinced with this response. So on the 8th, 9th night, I think, we were asked to attack Drigg Road with 4 aircraft. Drigg Road happens to be just about a kilometer or 2 from Karachi Oil. So I thought this was an opportunity. So I asked, I said, and I knew that having refused to give this as a target 3 times is pointless asking for it. So I said, can I attack Drigg Road with 8 aircraft? So I said, no. Taking 8 aircraft through Jamnagar, because we used to stage through Jamnagar for refueling. So he says the Jamnagar doesn't have shelters for Canberras, and exposing 8 aircraft is taking too much of a risk. So I said, I know Pete Wilson, who was commanding Jamnagar at that time, and I'm sure he will tolerate this as an old friend. He said, no, you're not exposing so many aircraft. So then I said, as a last resort, can I attack with 8 without these additional 4 aircraft, not staging through Jamnagar? Which was agreed to, very reluctantly. They said, all right, take 8 aircraft, but only 4 will stage through and 4 will not stage. So I said, fine. Then I immediately handed over lead of the 4 aircraft which were staging through Jamnagar to my flight commander.
Who was the flight commander, sir?
Squadron leader Badhwar, then.
Okay, to go 5 squadron leader.
35 squadron. And I calculated on the takeoff chart, we needed 3,000 yards for all that weight, because we had to fit, in order not to stage through Jamnagar, we needed extra fuel. So we ordered tip tanks to be fitted on 4 aircraft. So with tip tanks and 8 bombs, we needed 3,000 yards. Pune had only 2,700 yards.
300 yards short.
So we started manipulating, and we knocked off 2 bombs on the pylons.
So you went with 6,000 pounds load.
We were 6,000 pounds and tip tanks, and it needed exactly 2,700 yards. So we were lining up. I ordered all 4 aircraft to line up on the first slab.
Yes. Not to lose an inch of space.
And we took off, carrying out high profile. And we attacked Karachi Oil. And in fact, when we were going, I mentioned this to the officer in charge, base ops at Pune, then squadron leader Gajipal.
Okay.
So I said, we are not staging, so we are coming back early. Keep good dinner for us.
Okay. Just see the time also.
So we attacked around, I think 9:30, and we were back home by about 10:30, 11 o'clock. When I was making this report in the mission completion form, Dilbag, who was my AOC, he was also in the base ops. He said, don't do this because you've done it without permission. So consequences can be bad. So I said, you want me to tell a lie to save myself? I said, I will not do that because I was not alone.
So many others were there, witness to it.
I said there are 7 more people who were witness to this. We were 8 of us. And how will I continue to command them after telling a lie in front of them? So what example will I set? So I said, I'd rather face consequences than tell a lie. So it's all right, if you insist, it will go. So the mission debrief report went as we mentioned, and it angered the CNC to such an extent that he recommended my removal from the squadron,
Removal of command.
from my command in my substantive rank,
Oh my.
which was a squadron leader.
Okay.
I was an acting wing commander at that stage. So that really knocked the wind out of my sail. I said, I lose my command and lose my rank, it's a double punishment. But fortunately, my savior was in air headquarters.
Who was this
Late
person?
Air Marshal Chatterjee.
Okay. H.M. Chatterjee.
I think.
H. And he was CNC Eastern Air Command also.
Ah.
At some later stage.
He was then the deputy chief because the operations were under deputy
That
chief.
time, in those years, you're right. sir.
At that
Deputy
stage.
chief. Yes, sir.
So he said the CNC has recommended removal, but he's not mentioned the reason. So
Okay.
what is the reason? So when they asked for reason, he was told that he has attacked Karachi oil without permission. So he says the fellow who was attacked is being punished, and the Navy is claiming the credit for it.
Right.
So let it be. So I continued my command, and then 17th ceasefire came. 20th Air Chief Marshal Lal himself flew down to Pune.
So,
This was his, what is to be noted is, it was his first outstation visit after the
after
war
71 to Pune.
to Pune. And naturally the chief was there, so CNC had to be there. And AVM Pandit, who was then AOC Mao, he was there. So he was trying to ascertain facts.
About this.
Yes. So
You mentioned that he's brought it out in his book. This incident has been covered in his book, sir?
he's covered this in his book.
Okay.
He's covered this. But the book was written almost 10 years after.
And also part of it is written by his wife.
Beg pardon?
Part of it has, sir, he passed away
He
somewhere
passed
in
away,
between.
He had written in the
Yes,
form of
manuscripts were
notes.
there, yes, and what,
It was compiled, helped by Air Marshal Chatterjee and few others. Oh. So I asked the chief, I said, you asked the CNC. This was my logic. I explained my logic.
Sir.
I said, what was his logic for refusing it? I personally think there are two things that I can indicate. It's a shortage of intelligence because the 19 targets did not include it. Because the CNC says they were very carefully selecting the targets. So why did they leave this target? Either they were not aware of this existence,
Could be.
which indicates lack of
Intelligence information.
or it is lack of realization on the part of command the importance of this target.
So did you suffer any casualties during all the operations? You had a detachment in Agra, as you mentioned, 4 aircraft detachment. By and large, in the war, anybody was shot down?
From Agra?
Yes, sir. 35 squad.
30, yes, there was one aircraft shot down.
Who were the crew?
And I don't think it was shot down. I think something went wrong in flying. Because
Who was the pilot, sir?
pilot was Flight Lieutenant Sandal, navigator was Flight Lieutenant Nanda.
Okay, yes, yes. Did they go into, were they doing ultra low flying?
You see-
Somebody says they went into the
You
sand.
see, why I say I doubt it was shot down is that he was number 3 on that day.
On that day,
On I think on 4th or 5th,
for which target?
on the same
Same,
Masroor.
Masood.
Masroor. I attacked Masroor 4 times.
Oh my, okay.
It was being repeated like a milk run.
What was it? What was the importance of Masood, sir?
And my number 4 was another able pilot, PPS Gill.
PPS Gill, yes,
PPS
Chandigarh.
Chandigarh. He went to Air India. He's
Yes.
now settled in Chandigarh. So PPS Gill told his navigator, he says, spot this flash. They saw a very bright flash because number 3 was always ahead of number 4.
Yes,
So number 4, he saw this
flash.
flash and he asked the navigator to plot it on his map.
Okay.
So he took down the coordinates of the flash, which was about 40 miles south of the target on the escape route,
But not in Indian territory,
not on Indian territory.
in Pakistan territory.
Pakistan. Because we had about 150 miles to fly to enter India.
Yes, sir.
So my conjecture was that it took about 7 minutes to cover that distance after attacking the target.
Okay.
So if he had been hit, he would have made some transmission.
Which was not there.
Not there. So there is even when you are hit, there is a panic initially, but that panic cannot last 7 minutes.
Quite a long time, 7 minutes.
Quite long minutes. So there was no call. So I feel that we used to attack at 8,000 and descend 2,000 to get away.
Yes.
So something went wrong there and he hit the ground.
In that case.
And the next day, there was a hunter formation going from Jamnagar to attack Masroor.
Yes.
And that squadron was commanded by my course mate, chap called Wing Commander Conquest.
Dawn Conquest.
Dawn Conquest. I requested Dawn. I said, if you, on your way back, if you happen to look around, just see if you see any remnants of a crash.
Okay.
So, which he did, and he said he saw fresh oil patch there.
Okay.
He said there's a marshy area and there was fresh oil patch. So apparently the Canberra had
That's
gone,
crashed over.
gone there. So I'm still convinced that it was not an aircraft which was shot down.
So what was the, I'm sorry, I'm ignorant about Masroor. What was the importance to Masroor that you did 4 rounds and even the fighter aircraft went for attack? What was exactly there?
Masroor was a military airfield.
Military
They
airfield.
had the Canberra squadron there,
Okay.
and I suppose they will have some fighter aircraft
Okay.
also.
Okay.
It was a major airfield
Okay.
in that area.
So we are almost coming to the end of our interview, am I right, in terms of time? And now you said a lot, and this will be interesting to our viewers watching this program. So let's talk about life. I think you are one of the senior officers who has come to stay in this home in Tughlaqabad. A person of your status, we would would expect to be living in a sprawling bungalow. But it just shows humility and humbleness to come and reside with Mrs. Badhwar over here. Just cover Mrs. Badhwar too. And tell us about life. Because everybody will be wondering how come Commodore Badhwar is staying in the mess after having commanded a station, after having been a boss of so many. How is life been treating you all?
No, that was, the service was a part. I got my dues. I was in fact promoted through deep selection twice.
So,
I got both my ranks as a group captain and Air Commodore through deep selection.
sir.
And in fact, when I was commanding Agra, there was a question of promotion board in which only 3 wing squadron leaders were cleared to be promoted wing commanders.
So,
And I was very worried because the 3 wing commanders were happy, but the rest were very, very unhappy. And that was a lot which was going to remain with me on the station.
okay.
So I got them together in the station cinema and I was talking to them when the CNC Air Marshal Barar rang up for me and he was told that I was addressing these officers. When I went back to my office, I contacted him and he inquired. So I said, this was the situation. So I wanted to go and comfort those poor chaps who has not made it. So he said, yeah, that's a good idea. Next week I'll come there and I'll address them, which he did. And quoting him, he said, he pointed out to me and he said, he's the only bastard who has never been superseded.
Okay.
He said, even I have been superseded as an air commodore, and this is part of the process. The line, dividing line is so thin.
Yes.
When you say 7.4, so 7.3, which is above the average, also misses it.
Misses the boat. Yes.
Misses the boat. So it is because of hierarchical structure of the service.
We have to, the pyramid shape of the service.
And this is
So can you talk about your life in the mess now?
no,
How's your health? How's your health? Yours, Mr. Badhwar's health.
I can't complain about health. I'm 86 years old now.
Oh, 86.
I'm still managing things on my own.
Good, very good.
Yeah, I came here and I took over as chief executive. I worked for 4 years and I faced some problems in the infrastructure.
Logistics problems. And
The main problems were electricity
oh, okay.
and water.
Water.
Tughlaqabad, if you recall,
Very historical
was
place.
the historical place. Muhammad Tughlaq brought which continued 600 years after that.
Yes, yes.
And we were facing that problem. And every time I would take it up with their headquarters, they would say, you must become self-sufficient. So only way to become self-sufficient was to put a big tube well.
Tube wells, yes.
Tube well. When I made an attempt, I realized that it was not all that simple. Because you needed to exploit subsoil water. There's a board of Chief Minister of Delhi is the head of the board, and it has to be cleared. It needs his permission.
Okay. So that must have been difficult to
Yeah.
approach it. I mean, it must have been a difficult exercise for you to
Yeah.
handle this.
Oh, then number of people approached,
Yes.
and it question of, and that board is held once in 6 months. So it depends on
Yes.
how many cases are put up and how many cases are cleared. So when I went and talked to the executive engineer of this area, he was a very nice person, I forget his name, Meena. Mr. Meena. He said, I accept your requirement. You are the only residential area. This is an institutional area.
Yes,
You are the only residential complex
in this area.
and you need water. So the only way out is you go ahead without the board's clearance.
And
I keep my eyes shut,
And you do the needful.
and to regularize it, you give me the layout and the picture of the tube well, and I'll stamp it.
So tell us about your, recently, as you mentioned, 35 squadrons celebrated the Diamond Jubilee.
Yes.
You attended it. Let's hear your experience over there. Your old squadrons and Diamond Jubilee.
Oh, it was wonderful meeting old chaps, like old squadron commanders, including Kicha,
Oh, yes.
whom I had the honor of selecting as the squadron commander. He ultimately retired as Chief of the Air Force. And Kicha was there and he gave me a very warm, long hug.
Must have.
And subsequently, during the air display, when I was seated in the front row, and he came himself, he said, sir, I think because of your hearing, you've not heard, they're taking pictures of ex-squadron commanders.
Okay.
And I was the one he mentioned, he said, how come KK sir is not there? So he personally took me to stand in the picture, for the picture.